Hey everyone, it's me, Rai Rai, and today I'm going to be doing a real-time painting of Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman from the movie Batman Returns that came out in 1992. If you're not familiar with my acrylic series of movie portraits, my website, ryanmartinart.com, has a bunch of, I think the goal was to paint about 100, and I think I painted close to that. And they're portraits cropped in really close of film stills from some movies that were really important to me growing up or as an adult. And I'll go more into kind of the concept behind the series, but at the same time, I do want to give you an inside look of real-time footage. This is not sped up at all. This is how kind of slow or fast I paint, and the portraits are completed in about an hour, and you'll see how I start and finish the portrait. The first thing I do when I start a portrait in most paintings in acrylic or oil is I start off with a ground color, they call it. The ground is pretty much what it sounds like. It's what everything else will stand on. And in this case, I looked for a color that was kind of beneath the skin, behind the whole painting in a way. Now, most of the painting's black, and I thought about just painting it really black. But I knew an important element of this portrait was the pale skin tone of Michelle Pfeiffer in character. So to bring that out, I looked for the coldest kind of color I could find in her undertone underneath all those highlights. And a color I keep seeing in this photo is a purple. I paint the whole paper sheet with this kind of lavender purple. I dulled it down a little so it's not very vibrant purple. It's dulled down a little bit. You can see here I probably put a little bit of burnt sienna or raw sienna in the purple to kind of dull it down. So you can see that it's not all perfectly one purple. It's just kind of something to get in so I don't have to paint on that stark white paper. I'm painting on 100% watercolor paper that's comes pre-stretched in a block form. It's kind of like a stack of paper that's glued around the edges. I either use Winsor & Newton or Arches watercolor paper. It's hot press, so the finish is a lot more smooth. There's not much texture to the paper. Well, I've done, I don't know, it was like 70, 80, 90 or something portraits of these in this style. I've only filmed around 3 or 4 of them from start to finish in real time so that I could create YouTube videos out of it. I'm looking to do more portraits again like this. If I do and people enjoy this, just let me know. I will definitely record real time and I can make more YouTube videos. I know they make for kind of lengthier videos, but I know as an artist, something I really loved. I came up around the Bob Ross era where in the 90s, watching a lot of Bob Ross on TV. So seeing a painting from start to finish, I think is really helpful for learning. And that's where I learned a lot, was watching people paint from beginning to end. And even now, when I go on YouTube, I tend to like paintings that are in real time so I can see how fast they're kind of making their decisions. It's kind of encouraging to see that it doesn't all happen in time lapse, It's a slower process. If you notice a little bit of blurring happening on the iPad screen in my as the reference, that's just notifications I'm getting from my parents or cousins and friends that are texting me while I'm painting, so I just blurred it out for their privacy. You'll also notice that my voice is a little different today. I might be clearing it a lot. Hopefully I'll be able to edit that out so I don't cough very loud. but I'm getting over strep throat actually. You'll also notice that the iPad is very skewed, so you'll notice my drawing is much more narrow. It's just that the fisheyeing of the iPhone camera made the iPad look very skewed and square, so my drawing will look a little different, but that's because I'm looking at the iPad straight on, so I'm not painting the skewed version, I'm painting kind of what I see in front of me. I am painting, basically drawing at this point, freehand almost. So I'm measuring kind of where halfway is and getting in kind of the large shapes I'm seeing in the reference. And I just have a little bit of a darker purple. I'm using a very small brush, a long handle, cheap brush. I always get my detail brushes. I just buy the cheapest ones because I find that they get damaged so quickly. Small brushes, once one little hair starts going awry, then it just like, once it goes awry, it's just like, it's over for that brush. So I just buy the cheapest one. I think this is just like a Blick brush. So I'm pretty much using it as a pencil, and I'm watering it down a little bit. Remember, with acrylic, you don't want to water it down with water necessarily because it won't bind the pigment well to your surface. So I just use a little bit of matte medium or ultra matte medium. The ultra matte medium is pretty much my favorite medium right now. It just dries to a really beautiful paper finish. Kind of making little adjustments. I do mess up a couple areas, and when I say mess up, it's just, it makes me feel so uncomfortable because I feel like that's just the way we're taught about homework or our jobs. But with art, things that we would see as a mistake in other areas of our life really aren't mistakes. They're just kind of journeys. If I painted an eye too high or too low, or the nose too high or too low on the first go, it could be seen as a mistake. But I think what I like about art the most is those mistakes really inform other things, subconsciously even, when we don't realize it. So for me, it feels more just like, I guess you could say, a side quest or a side journey. Sometimes those mistakes, or like for here, the nose, if I messed it up and I put it too low, it informs the way I'm painting things around it, and those little things that are off from the photo, because I'm not striving to do photorealism here. I'm just trying to give an impression of this feeling I had in the scene and kind of capture that moment. I'll go more into the concept later. But it's I'm not trying to just weasel my way out of saying I never make mistakes. I am a person of many mistakes, and probably regrets too. But when it comes to painting, it's that fun journey. If it's that win that makes you feel so high when you're painting something the way you want it to come out. But it's only in contrast to the times things aren't working your way. And more than a win in painting, I feel like I might be too emotional because I'm sick right now. It's so dramatic. Sometimes I feel like what's more exciting than a win is when you have those journeys or mistakes, side quests, side journeys in your painting that make you create character in your artwork that you would have never been able to create authentically on your own if you were trying, and getting everything perfect and accurate. So yeah, mistakes, sure, we'll just call them mistakes for the sake of conversation. But otherwise, Think of them as little side journeys. Did that all make sense? I feel like I'm a man of too many words. So if you could figure out a way to sum that up quicker, just let me know. You can see I'm just blocking in the background. I'm kind of a lazy painter. I think that's why photorealism is just something I wouldn't have the patience or skill to do. I don't have that talent to be patient. I could work on a painting for an hour, but I couldn't have spent like 4 or 5 hours on this. I would just not have the patience for it. It's weird because with oil painting, I have a lot more patience. I'll spend weeks on paintings, but I think it's because I shelf it for a long time and come back to it. It's kind of what you have to do when paints take that long to dry. Acrylic will literally be drying while I'm painting it, so I don't match the colors exactly, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I'll just get it close and then paint it in. I'm not going to be meticulous and trying to get the exact color right off the bat, unless it's something I feel will save me a little time later. I know here I just want to block out the composition more. I'm still kind of drawing in a way. So I'm laying in, there's this like patent leather costume Michelle Pfeiffer's wearing, and it's great. I love this costume. It's so cool. The reason why I picked out this picture, I guess I could get into the concept a little more. So the reason why I picked out this picture is because when this movie came out, not only was it just mainstream success and every little kid was probably talking about it, but the toys were incredible. I had the Catwoman toy, and she was so different. She had a very womanly figure. She wasn't like a built G.I. Joe with like a female face on it. She was literally a very female form, and I hadn't seen that before. And I'm a gay man, so it's not like I was fetishizing it in any way, but I was like, wow, this is so, I guess at heart I was really being gay and saying like, this is fabulous. This little tiny sculpture of a woman is a fabulous toy. Like, it's badass. Like, she's feminine and strong and kicks ass and can even kick Batman's ass a little bit, you know? Like, I love that about her. The character and the toy was a lot of fun to play with when I was young. So this movie really inspired a lot of I feel like it's movies in general. People who know me know that I'm a movie fanatic. I don't have a very acute taste in movies. I feel like with art I could be a little bit of a snob, but with movies I'm like, I'll watch it all. I enjoy it all. I watch about a movie or two a day sometimes, but at least maybe a movie a day, almost like 5 movies a week. And there's something about movies that it's a very visual expression, and those are the movies that kind of draw to the most. So of course Tim Burton would take us there, right? His very moody Batman drama. With choosing a Catwoman image, it was really hard to choose which one because I wanted something iconic, but at the same time, this whole journey with these portraits was about giving just a glimpse into the narrative. I started with screen captures, and I was going to start painting like the whole face in a way, but I liked the thought of the cropping being vertical like a portrait or like a selfie now because we have cell phones, versus painting a horizontal still of a movie. So in movies, I like how directors can crop the actor or actress or whoever it is, and their subject, they could focus on just like part of their face. So I almost wanted to be a director myself and crop in their cropping even more and kind of add more of a narrative of what is happening. So while this is a close-up of the face that Tim Burton was showing. I'm making it an extreme close-up, pretty much almost, of her eye and mouth. And if you know this scene, it is an iconic scene. It is so awesome. She is looking at this little bird in a cage. She grabs the bird, she puts it in her mouth. You think she's going to eat it, but she ends up opening her mouth at the end of the scene, and the little bird kind of flies away. And that visual really hooked me as a kid, and I knew I wanted to do a birdcage scene. I loved the way the birdcage was in front of her face, and while you don't see the bird, people who know this movie would instantly remember that. I hope would instantly remember, like, oh, the birdcage. But yeah, so that's kind of the concept behind this, the reason why I chose this scene in particular. Now, the croppings have all started being this kind of really close-up shot of the face with only kind of one eye showing completely and the other eye not being there, or just partly, barely a corner of it there. And the reason why that happened, which is kind of interesting, is for me, I find it interesting that I did that out of necessity first. When I started acrylic painting, I was like, my oil paintings take so long, so I want to make sure I create acrylic paintings that are fast. I want to be able to go to my studio and bang out a painting in an hour or less. That's the goal of my acrylic painting. So out of necessity, I was like, well, painting two eyes is going to make it more difficult for me to get the drawing in fast, because having two eyes for people who do portraiture and aren't as skilled, like I feel like I'm skilled, but not as skilled as many portrait artists out there. It'll be a struggle to make sure the eyes are on the correct level, and to make the face look more symmetrical. So I figured, well, let me just crop in and barely have the other eye in there. And that started playing into the psyche of the whole portrait in the end, where you have these croppings of one eye, and it reads different. And psychologically, I like the way it's just showing this, they always say it's the window to the soul, but it really is just showing kind of the personality with in a more minimal way, rather than showing the whole face. It's just a cropping of the face. So while it started out as laziness or necessity, or to try to be quick, it ended up working well with the concept. So I feel like it's almost, sometimes you feel like you're cutting corners and you're cheating yourself or cheating your viewers, but in the end, again, it's like a journey. You're kind of stumbling upon a message that you actually really did want to tell. It's like your subconscious is making you create something better by being lazy, people will call it, or just doing things out of necessity. So a lot has happened in the painting. I apologize for not talking through all of it, but I'll jump in now. I did more time matching the color of the eye. I know I wanted to really nail that cold, icy blue, so it took a little while to mix that, but otherwise everything else, I'm just focusing more on lights and darks. Getting in the eyeliner, I started off with that purple, right? So I'm using that almost like a mid-tone. Then I'm going in with all the darks, shaping the form of the face a little bit, drawing it in, and then in a little bit I'll start hitting in the highlights, and the mid-tone will be there kind of to hold everything together, or in this case it was the ground actually that's showing through. Most people paint over the entire ground, but for me, actually I don't remember how this one went, but I think I do let a little bit still show through or sing through. Let's see, what I'm going to paint now is just refining the nose more. Noses are really hard, so I always make mine look so flat sometimes, so I try to focus more on just like dropping in the little shadows in the nostrils, and then just really focusing on where the shadow form is. The lighting in this shot, it just makes the portrait so easy to paint, which is another thing I'll look for when I'm putting together a painting, is how easy and fast is it going to be to paint. Not just the cropping of the facial features, but being able to do the shadows and lights very easily. Just darkening the mouth, you can see I'm not even mixing the correct red. I'm just kind of blocking it in. With acrylic, you could just wait a minute or two. You can just paint right over it. So it's nice being able to kind of easily map it out. This is oil painting, which I love oil painting, but I would have to wait for it to dry, or that dark I put under there will probably take over any red I put on it. Here I'm trying to match the light and see how it looks. If you don't know much about color theory, I'll just give you a little bit. To create the illusion of light, there's two main ways you could do that. One of the simplest ways we think of is using lights and darks together. If you put a white sphere, if you really wanted to paint a white sphere, you would have white on one side, and then you'd have a darker color on the other, and that'd give you the illusion of light, because there's a shadow and there's a highlight area. Well, color is another way to give the illusion of light. It's actually the most, I feel like I want to use the word fabulous just because we were saying it earlier, but it's one of the most brilliant ways to get it. And by brilliant, I don't mean smart. I just mean beautiful, powerful ways of creating light. The illusion of light is changing the temperature of your colors. So when something's in the light, making sure it's not the same temperature or coolness or warmness as it is in the shadows. And I could do a whole video if you like about color theory in this, but in this case, I have purple as kind of the undertone or a shadowy color. So the opposite of that, opposite of kind of a purpley color, is yellow. Yellow's on the opposite side of the color wheel if you look at a color wheel. So if you use these opposites, it'll give you this vibration of light, because color is light and light is color. So instead of just relying on values to create the sense of depth and light, color is one of the most useful tools you could have in your arsenal when you're putting together a painting to create form and to create light. Now her skin is very smooth and beautifully lit and soft, but in this painting I'm just trying to be more of an impressionist. If you're familiar with impressionist, it's like a Degas or a Van Gogh, where they're just giving you the impression of the way the tree looks and giving the energy of the subject they're painting. Like the skin is pulling this way, the nose is going that way, so the brush is going to go that way. The area under the eye is being tugged this way, so I'm going to tug my brush that way. The nose is going down, I'm going to tug it down. The side of the lip is going that way, so I'm going to pull the brush stroke that way. It just gives you more of an impression of what's going on with the form. I hear a lot of artists always, or even students that I work with, they talk about the ugly stage of their painting. And I totally have been there. Now I don't think of it as much because it's just like, I work alone in my studio, so the ugly stage I don't know, because, I'm ugly when I'm in my studio, I'm not putting myself together. No one's going to see me. No one's going to see my art in the ugly stage, so I just don't notice that I'm ugly or that my art's ugly, that I didn't comb my hair, and that, I might be a little smelly that day because I don't know, I was working out in my studio, like not working out, but like cleaning my studio and like working around and getting all gross and whatever. So with these paintings, I feel like if I look at my painting now, I'm like, oh my gosh, is this what they're talking about? This is totally the ugly stage. Like, this is the stage where I'm like a little self-conscious, like, oh, people are gonna be seeing this stage of my painting. So that's what I really like about YouTube right now, is it's it's kind of allowing me to see these it's making me self-conscious. No, it's allowing me to see kind of what people are talking about the ugly stage, because I never really worry about it, but like I said, because no one ever sees my work in these stages much, I feel like. So or if they do, it's like time lapse, so they see the ugly stage for like 0.05 seconds only. But yeah, here it is, my ugly stage. Now that I have kind of everything blocked in, the lighting structure and the composition's pretty much there, the drawing's okay, I'll start working on the main event, which is that eye. I need that eye to be readable as a really great eye in order for the painting to work the way I hope it'll work out. So a lot of it is about that downward light that's hitting her face. And if you notice, the whites of the eyes are never usually pure white. If you're looking at somebody, the most pure white thing is usually that little glare in the eye. Or in this case, a big part of it is that eyelid that's catching all that directional light coming down from the above lighting. So here is that really light color, and I'm not using pure white in this. I think I'm graying it down still a little, or you can see it's a little pinker. I think the only pure white I'm going to put on is on that little eye, and then in some of the patent leather and stitching, I'll do a little pure white. More traditionalist painters would say that's not even good enough, and a lot of them will never use pure white on anything unless it is the sun itself they're painting in the background, like in a landscape, or something that is reflecting the sun itself, like maybe a sparkle in the eye of somebody who's in direct sunlight, which makes sense. You know, the brightest thing that we see from Earth is most likely, in most cases during the day, is going to be the sun. So that should be the only thing that is actually white, unless it's being reflected off water, or, you know, off an object, metallic object, or shiny object, or wet object. So we're about halfway through the painting. I hope this is interesting to watch. It is really interesting to watch for me, because I'm like, wow, I filmed this months ago. Maybe even like a year ago, almost a year ago. So I kind of know what's going to happen, or like the steps I took to paint it, but at the same time I feel like I'm watching somebody else paint, which is kind of cool. I'm like, oh yeah, I would have done that too. Oh wait, I did do that. So I'm putting a little bit of warmth. The skin has a lot of blue undertones, and then it kind of has some yellowy highlights. So the bluish and purples, you know, they're kind of crave that yellow. But then when you have blues and yellows, you're going to crave red. Blue and yellow are primary colors, and the only other missing primary color is red. So to bring out that feeling of light, I'm going to give your eye the full plate of food, the full plate of primary colors. So yellow, blue, and a little bit of red, in this case pink. I know the lips are going to be so electric, so I don't want to go too crazy with exaggerating some of the pinks in the face, because I do want the red in the lips to be what is red and warm. That seems too yellow. Am I going to change that? Kinda. I made it more green. That's too green. Do I change that? I'm so curious what I do here. Let's see. That's too blue. Do I change it? So you can see this whole process I'm doing, you know. And is this considered one of those journeys I was telling you about, one of those mistakes? Because I don't know. I just feel like it's just part of what you do. you just work through it. I rather test it on my paper where I could see how it's actually going to look rather than just kind of holding it up. So this is a lot colder, and I've actually recorded a voiceover for this before a year ago, and then I took it down from YouTube because I was like, I don't need to be in front of the camera. I think I was in front of the camera for part of this video, and I was like, I think I want my YouTube channel just be focused more on my hands painting and my voice versus my face. So here is this very cold light, and I remember wanting to exaggerate the coldness of this because I want the red lips to sing, and that was not a subconscious decision. That was a little bit by design, some of the differences, but I only want to take credit for that. Most of the other differences between my reference and the painting is subconscious. Like, it wasn't by design or choice. It just kind of happened that way subconsciously. It just worked out for me, or it's not working out for a viewer. Maybe they're just like, I wish it was photorealistic. Ryan, learn how to paint a photorealistic painting in an hour. But that's just not kind of the goal for me. So I'm just trying to try my best with the time I kind of allotted myself for these paintings. That's my disclaimer, huh? Like, don't hate on me. So see, I'm putting a lot of cold now. I just want, I like pushing color a lot. If you're familiar with my oil paintings, I kind of overdo it a lot of times with saturation. I like crank the saturation up as much as I can. I'm trying to get away with as much as I can. But for these, I'm just doing it because it's fun. I'm not really thinking of the outcome. It's fun in the moment to see when to lay in a cool color next to a warmer color is so much fun. I can imagine what sports players go through when they score a touchdown. And it just feels like all these little touchdowns being made, even though nobody else could see it. Well, you guys could see it now, but maybe you're not experiencing it the way that when you're in it, though, I can't imagine how it feels to make a touchdown, because I just don't have that skill. But I could imagine what that little thrill feels like when you're catching a ball, and it feels like that's what it feels like when you put two colors together that start to create something photorealistic in a very abstract way. Let me see what I'm trying to explain. So above the eyebrow, there is that cool blue and that kind of warmer highlight color. It's kind of cold still because it's very white, but that cool and that yellow, that warmish yellow above the eyebrow, those two colors together are doing something, and they're abstractly painted. They're not rendered softly, perfectly like skin. They're just kind of 2 or 3 strokes next to each other that are creating the illusion of depth. And that's what I mean by it is it's so thrilling, and it just feels like magic when you're doing it. That's what I hope you could feel like. If you're not a realistic painter, if you're like, oh, Ryan, I can't draw faces and stuff, I hope you do try landscapes or even just abstract painting, because abstract painting, when you're putting two colors together, something happens and they start playing off each other. And I don't know if many people outside of being an artist would understand that, but it's something that's really hard to explain when you see how lights and darks work together, and more so when two different colors start working together. I'm probably just gonna have to title this one Ryan Gushes Over Color and has a long rant about it. So I'm painting in a lot of yellow. It's looking a little flat to me, the little yellow areas. There's a lot of yellow here and it's not doing much. The mouth area, kind of the whole, I would say almost like muzzle of the cat, or this Catwoman, is just not reading well, like the eye portion. So I just keep reworking it more and more. You can see I'm playing a lot with primary triads here, playing a lot with the reds, or pinks in this case, yellows and blues, when you give somebody primary colors to look at, it's like I say before, it's like giving them a full plate of food. If you're skimping on the red, they're going to be craving red. If you're skimping on the yellow, if you only have red and blue, they're going to be craving that yellow. So it's just a way to kind of satisfy people's eye, because that's how light works in nature. And that's what we're kind of looking for in paintings, without kind of realizing it. But as you get to know color theory, or if you study it or you work with it and kind of stumble upon it, you'll start to notice what your brain instinctively craves. And then on top of that, there's a whole nature versus nurture thing. So some people like when things look more desolate, when you're not giving them the whole plate of food, when it's like you're giving them this anemic painting in a way. That's kind of saying something a lot too. So don't feel like you always have to follow these rules of color theory. You could branch out and kind of do your own thing too. Right here, I'm starting to sketch in where the stitching is going to go. I think at this point I never really worry when I'm painting. Like I say, I try to pick subject matters that are very chill. But if I had any hint of worry, I think it was about here when I was like, the stitching is going to go in, and then afterwards I have to paint over these lines, this cage. I picked this picture because it's like, I'll just throw in quick little lines over the face. It'll be cool. But there is a brief moment, if I could be transparent, that I am like, again, not fearful in any deep way, but just kind of like, oh man, I hope I don't fuck this up when I put the little cage lines in, So kind of same thing with the stitching. I'm like, I hope I don't, when I put in these bold white strokes, I hope I don't mess anything up too much, because I don't have that much time left to paint. I need to get ready for bed soon. Here I am. I think I'm probably just using straight out of the tube, like Pyrrole Red or something. Or Cadmium Red Medium is one of my favorite reds. Those lips, I just wanted to read so deep and rich and red. This is my favorite part of painting. It's just the colors you can get. The beautiful pigments. And it's pigments you don't really see like this often in I feel like in your everyday life, like I'll see a red rose that will just be so illuminated under the red sun. But then nothing else in my day will be that red. There might be a cherry red car that passes by or something, but these kind of beautiful colors that no matter how many times you see them, it just never gets old how rich they are and how beautiful they are. All right, I feel like I've gushed enough about concept and color. Let's get into the zone of what is going through my head when I'm painting. So right now I am definitely like, okay, we got to start adding these blacks in. I'm probably using Payne's Gray. That's my favorite kind of color to use for black. It's very cold gray that's really blue, in its undertone. And I'm blocking it in a little thick in some areas. You'll see kind of the ridges of my brushstrokes. And when I am painting in the artwork or the strokes for the darks, I am making a decision whether I want the peaks to stay there or not, the ridges. It's not a very obvious, very front forward kind of decision, but it's kind of like, I know I want there to be kind of directional lines. And if I was to draw this, I would hatch my lines across the form of the patent leather to further emphasize the way it's curving around the face. So since I'm not drawing it, I'm painting it, I'm using those ridges of paint in a way and texture of brushstroke to inform the viewer of the form that I'm painting. Does all that make sense? I'm like, did I just make sense? But that's kind of the background noise that's kind of in my head a little bit. And I say background noise because most of the time when I'm thinking about when I'm painting is kind of the song I'm listening to and stuff. I'm making decisions, but my brain is fully being occupied. As you can see here, I'm kind of starting to block in the highlights, map out the highlights, and paint in the highlights of the patent leather. This was a lot of fun to kind of just leave these strokes kind of meaty, and I'm kind of squinting a lot or leaning back from my painting to see if they're reading as glares on the patent leather, and if it is, then I kind of leave it. If not, then I try to work it in a little bit more. What's cool with this paint is the white paint. You could just kind of lick it in and creates this fun little highlights. So this is a fun reference to paint if you are looking for patent leather to paint. This would be the character to paint. So instantly I feel like the painting's starting to kind of level up a little bit into being in the realm of being complete. And I just go through, and this is a fun part, but mostly what's going through my head, I can tell you, is I'm usually thinking about the song I'm painting to. That's kind of at the forefront. I have ADHD, so that's at the forefront. And then there's also just this playful feeling of just like, ooh, that's working. Let's do more of that. Oh, let's get this in, blah, blah, blah. Like that's kind of what's going through my head. Oh, it's too light, it's too dark. Oh, let me make it bigger or smaller. Let me just, this needs more depth. Let me put something here. Like it's just this constant conversation with myself. And making all these decisions. There will probably be like, you probably all have gone through this when you're making a sandwich. There's this inner dialogue that happens where you're like, okay, I need to put, I don't know, the mayo, the mustard. Oh, that might be too much mustard. Let me just take a little out, or let me just make sure I don't put too much mustard. Let me put the lettuce on. There's all this inner dialogue going on. But at the same time, it's very casual. It's not like the world's going to end if your turkey sandwich doesn't end up the way you want it. Maybe it might, I don't know. But that's what the painting feels like. It doesn't feel heavy. And that's what I like about art. I know I've had students before that are perfectionists, and they struggle with being at ease with their work. And I feel like they're able to create artwork that I can't. Because they need things to be a certain way. For me, it's much more like making a turkey sandwich. It's just very simple and casual, and I don't push myself to make the most perfect turkey sandwich when I'm making it, but I do push myself to want to enjoy the outcome. I want to make sure there's I want to make sure all the elements are there. I want to make sure the lettuce is there. I don't know, why am I using this analogy? I want to make sure this painting has texture, a variety of texture there. I want to make sure it has some kind of repetition to it. All these kind of elements of art you learn, whether you're at art school or just on your own. If you're self-taught, you learn what kind of works and what you're a viewer too. You're not just creating artwork in the moment. You're an audience the whole time you're painting, and you're making these decisions. And it's fun. It's fun to have these little conversations in your head. Now I sound crazy, but I talk to myself through the painting. I have this little inner dialogue, and it's very brief. It's very casual. And it's just here to enjoy the process of painting. Now, I know it could be thought of, or it has been said to me before, like, if you're not pushing yourself when you're painting, then how are you learning anything new? And that did make me think about, like, am I pushing myself enough? I know a lot of artists that will, or a lot of advice I've gotten before too, is to create kind of a niche for myself and stay within one parameter. And I feel like for me, dabbling into lots of different kinds of art and having a lot of variety while it might be detrimental to my art as a career to make a marketable kind of name for myself for being Ryan, the guy who does portraits of youthful faces in oil paint that are kind of androgynous, or surreal. Maybe I'm just known only for that. For me, I feel like staying in that niche is not helping me learn either or grow as an artist. Doing these kind of quick acrylic paintings, and I do urban sketching a little bit now, and sometimes I dabble in installation work. Sometimes it's photography, sometimes it's film video. These things inform my oil painting. So while I might not be pushing myself in some ways when I'm in the process with oil painting to the part of straining myself to make it, elevated, I feel like I am an explorer when it comes to art making or just being a maker. And that's kind of where I push myself more. So while I might not do it in the moment, like in this painting, because I want to finish it in an hour, I don't want to push it as far as I can in a 10-hour span. I feel like I am learning doing that, and also the time constraint is a challenge in its own. It's making me have to learn how to shorthand a lot more versus what I usually do in oil painting, where I kind of will stretch myself more and push the painting a lot further than I would with an acrylic painting. But yeah, so it's not really in my defense at all. It's just I think from my perspective, that's the way I see it. I'm like, no, I feel like I am learning still, even though I am at peace and I'm not feeling strained when I'm painting. I'm usually always feeling a thrill. Watercolor, on the other hand, has been a medium that I just told some people this the other day. I was doing watercolor portraits, and it's the first time I feel like I didn't finish like 2 or 3 paintings because I didn't like the way they looked. That it had been decades, I feel like, since I've done that, where I didn't finish a painting because I didn't like the way it was coming out versus I got bored with it or something, or my thoughts changed and I want to do something else now. This, I literally, in a more blunt way, I gave up on the paintings and just started anew. Watercolor is a very unforgiving medium in a lot of ways. But yeah, so I have had that strain. Not so much with acrylic or oil painting, because I feel like they're very forgiving mediums. You could just wipe it off for oil paint, or you could just paint right over it for acrylic. But for watercolor, it's more about just adding, and it's hard to kind of lift away. So yeah, that's just me being transparent. I've been there before. I've strained, but on these paintings, I don't do them for that purpose. I do them because I want to make something that day. I don't want to go to bed without painting something. So I have this designated hour painting I do for a day for however many days I was doing this project. I'm kind of curious for any established artists out there, and then also any amateur artist or up-and-coming artist, student artist. I'm curious, like, especially if you're in an art school or you're just finished art school, like, what kind of assignments do you give yourself after art school, or as for professional artists who have been doing this for decades? Do you still have an assignment you do? Like, if you're not occupied with having to create artwork to sell, what kind of assignments do you give yourself to paint? Like, this is my movie kind of assignment that I gave myself, a movie painting a day. And even though, I took a couple days off here and there, but yeah, I'm curious what kind of work people will assign themselves. I forgot to talk about the main overall concept, though. Everyone's like, please, no more concepts, no more gushing about color or whatever. I am noticing here that I needed to darken the background. I want to keep it lighter, so I keep it a little lighter than it is in the actual photo, because I wanted Catwoman to feel separated more from the background. So that was a design choice, but it happened by accident. But in the end, I ended up keeping it and just darkened it a little, but kept her kind of separated. But the main overall concept of this piece is I grew up in Southern California, where there are pretty much, people would always joke, there are no seasons, or the only seasons we have in Southern California, in LA or whatever, or Orange County, is fall and summer. Or no, I'm sorry, spring and summer, they would always say. And it's kind of true. Sometimes it only feels like summer all year long. The leaves don't change. It'll rain a tiny bit here and there, but otherwise it's the same like all year long. So I never had these kind of postmarks in my life or during the year of when times were different. There's no changing of the leaves. There's no snow on the ground. It's just sunshine all year long. But what was a big marker for me was the Christmas movies that would come out, the horror films that come out near October, all those summer blockbusters and action films that came out, early summer, and then throughout the summer. So all these kind of moments in my life, I also remembered when a movie would come out. Like, oh, I remember that was the year, Independence Day came out, or that was the year The Last Crusade, Indiana Jones came out. And I remember these moments in my life based off of this kind of timestamp of what movies I watched that year, which is kind of strange, but I loved it. I loved movies so much growing up. Here I am being kind of brave, I guess some people would say, and going in with a small brush and starting to mark off the bird cage. I know it's not going to come out exactly how I see it there, and I'm not too concerned with it. I'm just going to try my best, and I know I'll be happy with it. I'm a pretty easygoing person when it comes to art making, because I like just having fun, more or less, because I'm working all my jobs. I work full time at one job. I work part time for Winsor Newton. So I'm like always working. So when I have time in my studio to do art, which is usually really late at night, like midnight to 3 a.m., I'm excited. I'm just so happy to be off my feet after a long day at work and just kick back, put on my favorite music and paint. But yeah, so here goes those little birdcage bars. There's something really satisfying too, which kind of, I'm talking a lot about fear in painting, I guess, because I have people comment or message me and be like, oh, you're so brave doing that painting, or oh, do you ever get scared that you're gonna mess this up or something? And I never really felt that going into art as much. I think I am very fearful of other parts of my life, but when it comes to art, it's become that sanctuary where I'm like, all the mistakes are not that important. Like, no one's gonna die over this. No feelings are gonna be hurt over this. I hope my art isn't offending you to that level, but I'm like, it's not gonna hurt anyone if it doesn't work out. My painting doesn't work out. When I'm doing a commission, that's maybe where I feel a little bit of fear, because then I feel like something is at stake, someone's happiness with the money they spent. But when it comes to kind of this type of gallery work or something, I'm like, again, I don't want to like toot a horn or like brag about feeling at peace with painting. It's just something that has always been an escape and a hiding place for me in my life when I wasn't feeling great, is art making. So I always protect that and I always keep it that way. And I think I've just been going into art with that state of mind for so many years that it's just ingrained in me now. So I don't approach art with any fear. It just feels like complete love and happiness all the time when I'm painting. Now, some of my paintings might have to deal with having to assimilate into a more masculine role as being somebody who grew up in very conservative neighborhoods and households and religions as a child, as a gay child. So I feel like some of my subject matter might have some kind of depth and will kind of make me sad when I think about the concept, or when I'm thinking about a portrait painting I'm doing of this series, and the character can make me sad when I think about how sad part of their character is, or when I think about what was going on in my life when that painting came out. But otherwise, the practice of art making is always a happy one. So I'm able to kind of get through these more emotional paintings because the process and the act of itself of painting is a joyful one. So you'll notice some of the lines compared to the image that I put, the birdcage lines, some are too thick looking, in my head, right when that happens, if I'm like, oh, that went in thicker than I wanted, immediately my head will just switch to a solution. Be like, well, when the highlight goes in, it'll make it look thinner in a way, because the highlight will pop forward and that thick dark part will kind of fall backward. So usually when something doesn't come out the way I was expecting and I feel like I want to fix something, that's what will go through my head usually, is right away a solution. Oh, I could just paint that out. I'll let it dry and then I'll come back and I'll adjust it. So it's usually never really like, oh my God, I made a mistake. No. It's usually more like, I'll get that later. I'll come back to it. So you could see here, I'm kind of refining the highlights a little bit on the bird cage. Sneaking in a little bit more highlights. I noticed these ones are really light up here. I'm making them a little warmer, which is somewhat by design from what I remember, because warm colors do pop forward more. So I thought it would make it the birdcage stand out a little bit more, because they were looking a little too close to her face versus the actual photo, because of the way it's blurred or whatever, it created more depth. But the way I'm painting it in, it wasn't creating enough, so I just warmed up mine a little bit more. By warm, I mean making it more like reddish or more orange. Cool would be like the blues or greens. So right here, I'm like, am I done? I mean, I feel like I'm done. This could be done to me. When is it done? It's really just when the time's up, kind of. I try to be at a good stopping point where I'm like, it could be considered done. The finish of a painting is always the hard part. I'll usually kind of step away from the painting, so there might be some longer breaks here where you see where I'm not painting. It's because I'm kind of mixing a color. You could see my reflection mixing, actually. Oh, I wanted more of a highlight down here to bring out the eye. And I'll kind of observe my painting longer. Usually I'll use the restroom, go get some water, text a friend or family member, like scroll Instagram or TikTok or something for a little bit, and then come back and look and see if anything jumps out at me. Because the worst thing is kind of when you're like, I'm done with the painting, and then the next day you're like, that one part is just so distracting, because it's too flat, or it's too bright, or too dull, or too boring right there, or too colorful compared to everything else. It's just not clashing too much, but yeah, I think I'm noticing that when the paint dries, it's getting a lot more matte. So if I put in a little bit more thicker paint, it'll dry with a little bit more sheen, and it'll make it read darker. So I'm kind of retouching up some brush strokes, making them a little thicker. Let's see what my next move will be this time. Again, let me know if you want me to continue making these videos where I just kind of rant about everything or anything, what's going through my head, or with my studio process. Or if maybe you'd want one that's just mostly just talking about my process. It just might be a lot of dead time, because it's a lot to cover, kind of what's going on in my head in each moment, decision making wise. For me, it's fun to do a mixture, but it's up to you. I don't mind making. I probably still do mixtures like I did in this one, but I don't mind having a little assignment from you guys and doing one that's more focused on what you're interested in learning or seeing. Let's see. Am I done yet? I'm looking now if I could change anything. And I don't know if I even changed this, but near where the jawline is, there's that little light part. It looks like it's part of the jaw or the background. It's a little too close. That's something I would change. I don't even know if I changed that in this painting. Oh, what if I did it right now? That would be not. Oh my gosh, I'm doing it right now. Okay, this has been a year since I've seen this video, but yeah, so I separate it. I'd probably separate the background even more some way, but that's okay. I guess that's passable. I guess I know myself so well without even realizing it. Let me think of something else I would change. Oh, you know what? The eyebrow. I would change the eyebrow, which I don't think I do. Okay, this time I really don't think I changed the eyebrow, but the eyebrow just a little fuzzy in the painting, and I'm realizing I like the shape a lot from the photo, and I don't know why I didn't copy it closer because it's so dramatic. I think I was just more taken in by the eye and the lips that the eyebrow was like a second thought. But now when I'm appreciating this image more, I know I liked the eyebrow before, but I would have just milked that more, if that makes sense, to try to make the eyebrow as fantastic as Michelle Pfeiffer's makeup team made her eyebrow look spectacular there. The way the shadow is and the way it's formed. I don't know if she had it plucked in any way to kind of form like that, or if it's more of a natural kind of look, but incredible eyebrow. Okay, I was gonna say, am I gonna go in the eyebrow? No way. But yeah, touching up more cage. I feel like if I did change the eyebrow, you guys wouldn't believe me. You'd be like, you planned this. Still trying to make the cage pop forward more. I could see that. So I'm trying to make it come forward a little more. So I'm adding more highlights. Finishing a painting is the slow part, I feel like. We'll see in the other videos I post. I'll try to post about one a week. They do take a little longer to put together because the voiceover is about an hour long. That's me finger painting. Something gets too bright, I just kind of hit it with my finger real quick. It's a painting technique that I think a lot of artists use. Try not to use it though if you're using any very toxic materials or any toxic colors. Alright, little touches on those lips. Those little tiny highlights, little tiny specks of color to just bring it out a little more. More finger painting. Hopefully this isn't cadmium red. Actually I've been using a lot of cadmium free colors. I don't know if you know this, but Liquitex and Winsor Newton came up with cadmium free colors, so no more heavy metals or pigmented colors from cadmiums. You could still get a genuine cadmiums, but because every now and then, I'm not a messy painter, like getting it all over my hands, but every now and then I'll touch my painting, so it is nice to know that there's no cadmiums I'm kind of putting my fingers into. A little bit more details around the eyes, and I'm feeling it. I'm really I feel like I don't get really excited about my paintings being finished, but seeing this painting coming together a year later really is fun, and being like, oh, I'm excited to see the finished product and kind of how it evolved. I hope for you these long videos that are real-time paintings show that the time-lapse photo or images of me painting is, I don't know, sometimes when I see time-lapse it seems so magical. But when you see the real-time ones, it seems more achievable. Like, especially when I watch watercolor artists, I'm like, I could do that. I see the way they're breaking things down. I see that it takes time. It's not going to happen to me in the first minute or two. If I'm trying to create that, it's going to take like 30 minutes or more to get that little part in, or, it just makes things more achievable in my head. So I hope that helps out too, if you've been struggling getting into painting and being like, I can't do that. I hope you can't do exactly what I do. I hope I can't do exactly what you do. That's what makes art so fun, is that the last 100 years of art have been about celebrating individuality, and that's what makes it so fun and interesting. So I hope, though, that it does inspire you to try things out. I always try things that I see other people doing, and it always becomes your own anyway. So yeah. And watch this painting still not be done, so I'll just keep talking. I'm just putting more highlights on the cage. I feel like it's slowly getting the depth it needs. And now that cage is finally kind of stepped forward into the foreground. So I feel like I'm pretty close to finishing now. I guess I could always look ahead and see. Yeah, we only have a few more minutes. I'm also going to be showing you the painting up close, so you can see all the brushstrokes more. I know this is kind of a close shot already, but I really want you to see what I'm seeing, like the depth of the brushstrokes, kind of maybe a little bit of the side view of them, so you can see how it is textured a little bit as well. Acrylic paint, it's Liquitex professional soft body paint, and it'll shrink a little bit when it dries. So some of the peaks, they look big at first, and then they kind of dry a little smaller. Let's see if I had anything else. Oh no, I didn't. So this is kind of what the painting looks like. I will be peeling off the tape. I don't use masking tape anymore because sometimes it's too sticky, so I actually use drafting tape. You can see some of the paint's even still a little wet. But I'll peel off the drafting tape, and ooh, that's satisfying to get these kind of clean edges. I decided to go with the harsh edge on these paintings because it reminds me of, like I was saying before, like a selfie. I did really want to have a very solid, clean crop versus like a natural painted edge. I do love the way the painted edge looks like, but it was a decision I had to make early on if I was going to have the clean edge or the natural painted edge. But I decided with the clean edge for this series. And you can see there that it's kind of looks like it's on a panel or something, but it's actually watercolor paper that's stacked on top of each other that you could buy in a block form that's glued around the edges, and then I'll kind of peel it off. So it's a pretty heavyweight paper, 100% cotton, so it's nice and sturdy and durable. But I like it. I hope you could see in this shot how beautiful paint looks, even if it's not a subject that you're interested in. Just the strokes alone, it's just a great medium. I love acrylic painting. The way it drags over this paper is really pretty, and there's all these little moments that happen that you could only kind of see in person or in shots like this. So I really wanted to show you close up how you could see brush strokes layered under other brush strokes, layered under other brush strokes. So there's so much texture going on. The paper is smooth, and I feel like that really accentuates the acrylic paint strokes because you're seeing more of the paint texture versus the paper texture. If you made it through the whole video, I just want to thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're able to like or comment or definitely subscribe if you haven't. I'm trying to build up this YouTube channel. Let me know what you would like to see. Hope you all have a great day.